Centralia, Pennsylvania. So I decided to do a video on Centralia, even though it's been covered from front to back, side to side, and over. And I'm not going to cover those same details of how it started, the explanation of all the steps that took place in between. If you want to read those details, I suggest David DeCook's book, Fire Underground. Covers all of that. Very thorough, very honest. I want to start by showing a video, and it's not exactly Centralia, it's near there, and it gives a depth and a character to the entire surrounding landscape. Everything in that area has been stripped, dug up, trenched, just mauled. And I drove through for 60 solid seconds at about 50 mile per hour and just held my phone up to take, video, and it's just solid desolation and emptiness and piles of just dead earth. Industry. But I've stopped there numerous times over the years when I've been making trips down to Trexlertown usually. And probably 1996 was my first visit. And it was always October or November when I passed through. And you'd go through and the road was buckled and it was smoking. There were limbs and logs tossed into the crack. They were smoldering. There was embers. Logs were lying in the surrounding woods, they were charred. The vegetation was brown, seemed just dead. And I walked through some of the open pits very carefully because there was smoke holes and venting and steam coming out. It was a unique experience, and there was very little graffiti at that time, little disturbance to the street. It was strangely quiet, clean, I could say not cluttered. My pictures, they progressed year after year, and I don't think I have a good video. But I watched as that buckled road had no smoke, no fire a few years later. And I say a few years, but it was probably 10 years had passed at that point from when I first saw it. But there was grass growing in those road cracks on the side roads. Then came some graffiti. And I know some people thought it was cool. It was almost like a party atmosphere. But the bench was gone. The fence was gone. The time capsule to be open in 2016 was gone. It felt like there was clutter, and it just had a dirty feeling to it. It was different. Irreverent from the past is how it felt for me. When I first went, I was just as excited. I had a smile on my face, looking about, started thinking more and more as I spent some time there and thought about the loss of homes, belongings, memories. I realized it wasn't really something to celebrate. You still had some structures. You had the church, a couple cemeteries that were still cleaned and maintained. But you had these vent pipes, and they poked out of the ground all over. Some had metal cages around them because they were still hot, and they were smoking. They were venting. And you could tell that the fire had shifted and changed direction when you saw the road was different and no longer buckled. So one day I stopped, and there was nobody around, and I spoke to the gentleman who had refused to leave. And after speaking to him a while, the sadness in his voice as he spoke was profound. He was humble. He was polite. It was sad. It was just a depressing, sad feeling. And I remember that's what I was left with on my last visit there.